Are you recording already?
Yes. 20 seconds.
Good.
Yay!
All right, welcome to It's Not Just Bootcamp, the show. And today we have a special guest, new WBFF Pro. I forgot that we were recording.
Yes.
I'm like talking to the mic. New WBFF Pro, Erika.
Yay!
Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited.
Glad to have you on.
Yes.
Our co-host,
Hello.
episode number 2, Lais. And today we are going to talk about Erika's journey from when we met to the WBFF stage and her past journey before, because she had done a fitness competition before this particular show. So we are going to make sure that we cover as much as we can, and hopefully some of the information that we share helps anyone that's watching or anyone that's listening.
Yes.
Cool?
Let's do it. I'm
All right.
excited.
So this particular journey started with you.
Yes.
You reached out to her.
Yeah, it was random because I think I saw her on my Explore page and I was like, oh my god, look how cool. And we're gonna get into what she does for a living and all that stuff. But I'm like, she would be great for this. But I'm like, how random is it to just like reach out to someone and be like, hey, you'd be great for this. But I'm like, what the heck? You know, like we had a seminar coming, so I reached out to her. And I asked her, like, have you ever thought about doing a fitness competition or something like that? We were just going through those messages actually the other day.
Oddly enough, our seminar was titled, So You Think You Want to Compete.
Right. Because it was for people that probably hadn't competed or didn't know much about it, which is still how we do it, but that's another day. And she responded, and what is it that you said? You're like, actually...
So, I think I received 3 messages from you before I actually...
Stalker status.
before I actually answered back. And I was at a point in my life where before I started doing these shows, I was a marathoner and a competitive 5K and 10K runner. And so at the point where she started messaging me, I had just suffered an injury from running, and so I had to stop running. And I'm a very goal-oriented person, so I said, if I'm not going to be running, I might as well be doing something else. And I knew that I could probably lift weights because it's not as taxing on the body. So I said, you know what? Let me give her a chance. Let me actually listen to what she has to say. So that's how that's the reason really why I showed up to the seminar that day.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't even know she was coming. She's like, oh, I can't find the building. I'm like, oh snap, she made it. So
we were hosting a seminar because with all this contest prep stuff and at least the people that we were trying to help get ready for a show, we wanted to make sure that we could give the information instead of one person at a time to more people that were interested in the possibility of getting on stage. But we also wanted to show that despite what people have heard and despite what people think about getting ready for a fitness competition, that we could do it in a healthier, safer,
Yes.
and less restricted way and still get the outcome that people wanted, which was to look their best on stage. And I usually feel like having an event where you could talk to more people is easier.
Yeah.
And I know that these days maybe it's even easier to probably shoot a video like we're doing now, or than it is to talk to one person at a time.
The group feeling is good too, because then someone has a question and you're like, oh, that's right.
Right,
you know,
and you can bounce
a
ideas.
Lot, a lot can like get bounced off each other when you have more people in a room.
And a lot of times when you have more people in a room, there's a lot of questions that people didn't even think about asking
Yeah.
that come up, and you're like,
That's
oh,
true.
that's a great question, you
Yeah.
know. So that's why we do these group seminars or at least group talks, so that we can address to more people maybe a lot of the concerns that they have.
Yeah.
So Erika came to one of them, and
so prior to doing this show, I had the experience of doing a fitness show before I became a mom, but that was 10 years ago. So I was in my 20s, and I mean, in your 20s, you're almost capable of doing anything, right? So at least that's what I thought. So I did an NPC show 10 years ago, so I had the experience of competing, and I hated every second of it. I did not like it, which is another reason why I was so reluctant to answer back to Lais, because I had promised myself that I would never ever do that again. NPC was just not for me. The way that they train, the way that everything is done on stage just was, I didn't like it and it wasn't for me. So because my experience was so negative, I said, well, you know, I don't know that I ever want to do that again, but there was something about your message, I don't know, but there was something about you that I said, you know, you gave me a good vibe. So I said, let me at least go listen to her. Let me see what she's got to say.
She gives me a good vibe.
Wait, but let's stop you there before you continue.
Yeah.
Let's explain what the NPC is, or what different competition federations are, so people understand.
Like without getting into a bunch of details, there are a lot of different federations that host fitness-based competitions, right? The NPC, IFBB, WBFF, NGA, they're all...
It's a whole world.
It's a whole world of federations. It's almost like if you watch soccer, you have the Premier League, you have the South American League, you have, you know, all the different
almost
leagues.
Like different brands.
Right, you know, or that's a better analogy. So there's a bunch of sneakers, but you have Nike and you have Adidas and you have Puma.
Oh my god, so annoying. It's Adidas.
And you have Under Armour, so it's like that. There's a lot of them, and the parameters that differentiate them, you know, are a bunch of different things. But there are a lot of federations, and she had done one with the NPC, which is the amateur division of the IFBB. Is that
right?
All right.
Perfect.
Boom.
And the IFBB is that traditional bodybuilding that a lot of people are used to seeing. If you've ever seen anything on Instagram or on YouTube or anything like that, most likely it's an IFBB or NPC prep or show or physique. It's a very bodybuilding type look that most people will say, oh, that's too much, or that's so manly, or whatever anybody who isn't familiar with that world would say. It's that very tan, very bodybuilding look. So that's what she had done.
Right. And for me, it was just too much. It was unrealistic to sustain that kind of body that I had when I did the show. The dieting for me was very difficult, even though I was able to do it, but it wasn't sustainable. And it just really left me with a really bad taste in my mouth, like just the whole experience. So I told myself it's not realistic and I really don't have an interest to ever do it again. But then I really wasn't sure what the WBFF was, so I said, you know what, let me just go listen to her and see what she has to say.
Right, so she came.
So I came, and Ralph was the one that was giving the talk that day, and you know, he opened up the seminar by saying, if you think that this is going to be the kind of place where you're going to be eating boiled chicken and tilapia, you're in the wrong place. So that immediately caught my attention, because that is exactly what I was eating for 12 weeks.
Oh my god, I would literally
boiled chicken,
myself.
boiled tilapia with greens. No carbs, no sugars, no coffee, nothing.
Oh.
It was the most bland diet that anybody could ever eat. So I said, okay, well, I'm curious to know how he's gonna get me super fit eating what I want to eat. So that's why I stuck.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. And besides, I had already seen what you look like. And yeah, sure, you were very toned, but you weren't super muscular. I didn't want to be that way.
Right.
So you looked amazing. And I said, well, he's obviously doing something right. So let me at least go listen to him.
Right.
So I think one of the things that maybe stirs some people away, maybe even the people that are curious, is always that. It's that concept that all the people that are on stage must all be doing suffering, you know, because and the other thing is this, a lot of the people that are on stage are suffering.
Yeah.
And they are putting it out there. If you read, you know, whatever posts they have on social media, it's like, here we go again, you know, more boiled whatever they're having, and more asparagus and more green beans, and it's almost like that's the way it's always been done, and traditional contest prep looks like that, just because no one's ever, well, there's a lot of people that do it different, you know, we're not the only ones, but for the most part that's what you see, because a lot of it is fear of doing it a different way too. You know, in the same way, we get somebody that comes to our gym and wants to lose weight, but they're afraid of carbohydrates and they're afraid of bread and they don't eat after 6 p.m. It's almost like transition that from the normal day-to-day person to the competitive fitness person. It's like, well, no, I can't bake my food, or I can't pan sear it, or I can't eat out, you know.
But that's a you thing, that's not a WBFF thing, because there are a lot of girls that I've met backstage that are like, you're having coffee with sugar, you're having water, you're having, you know, chips, like protein chips, like you're having the salt. It's like I'm an alien backstage a lot of times. We were, you know, because it's like people come show week, like even if you had some balance during your prep, show week, it's like you don't have water, you're taking water pills, you don't have salt, you definitely don't have coffee with cream and sugar, right? You know, so it's like, it carries the whole way through. It's not like, well, but if you're competing at some point, you're gonna have to do something crazy that you really don't. You know, that at least not the way you do it.
And the truth is that it depends, right?
Right.
It depends on somebody's starting point, and it depends on how compliant they've been for the duration of their prep, which is why a longer prep is better.
Yeah.
And it depends on what they're looking like leading up to that. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a place for a lot of, you know, tricks. But you shouldn't necessarily need them if you've done everything the right way leading to a show.
Right.
And if you're really thinking about a fitness competition, you know, the first word there is fitness. So most of what you hear out there is how great these people look on stage and how terrible they feel.
Yeah.
You know,
that's not what
so truthfully, like I just couldn't be right with that, because if you're telling people, you know, this is the right way to do this and you should be healthy and fit.
Yeah. But the healthy part's not
healthy
there.
part gets lost.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure, and truthfully, and we talked about it in the podcast before, when she got ready for her show, it was almost the best opportunity to kind of punch people in the mouth with, no, you can get stage ready and not have to make the extreme amount of sacrifices that people think that they have to make. You can have balance isn't really the right word, because you're not, because when you want to be that, right, when you want to be that fit, you're not looking for balance. But you didn't have to deprive yourself
of everything.
Right. And as her coach for that particular show, it was almost like I wanted to use the foods that were against the rules and show that, listen, if you do it the right way and you have the right math and you understand the bigger picture, then no, you don't have to give up your Pop-Tarts if that's what you enjoy.
Right.
So it was an experiment at the same time that we were going through.
And then we took 10
almost like not hoping that the outcome was right, but it's like, no, like this is the outcome.
Right.
But we're gonna showcase it on stage now.
Right.
And sure enough, you know, then one person led to more people, and then it's like, you know, you can do it no matter the person, the starting point, as long as you give yourself enough time and you realize that the sacrifices are going to come in the sense that you're not going to get stage shredded if all you want to have is pizza all day long, but you don't have to give pizza up. You know? And the seminar I opened that way because it's one of the biggest, not only misconceptions but fears. You know, I think that a lot of people that might enjoy the process and want to do it just don't do it because they're like, I just don't want to give up my.
I've talked to people that will literally say that, like, I don't have that kind of commitment level, or I don't have that kind of discipline, or I don't know that I could stick to something like that. Stick to something like what?
Right.
You don't even know what it entails.
Right.
Again, I'm not going to go back and forth because at the end of the day, this is a very specific goal and you have to actually want it. No one can want it for you or tell you that you can do it no matter what. But like, it's sustainable if you're doing it the right way.
Right.
You know, you have to have willpower, but you have to have willpower for anything in your life.
So we talked about those things during this seminar, and then at the end, you know, she stayed and we talked a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I want to mention something. So for me, this experience, at least with the food part, had a different effect than probably most people would expect. Prior to meeting Coach Ralph and Lais, I was doing keto diet and doing the intermittent fasting. And so I was eating less than 1,000 calories a day and running and exercising as I normally do. And so when he did my meal plan, he got me up to like 2,000 calories, which was like way above like what I would ever eaten. And I almost felt like he gave me permission to eat more than what I was eating. I hadn't eaten rice in a year prior to meeting him. I hadn't eaten carbs in 1 year. And so of course when I saw all those carbs, I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this?
So let me ask you, because you know,
relationship with food is very
right,
important.
but you never get to ask these questions, right?
Right.
So it's like, so you get your meal plan, and is do you think like, how is this ever gonna happen? Like,
Like, this guy's full of shit. There's no way.
You know what? Absolutely. I had my doubts. I really had to like convince myself that I had to trust you because I'm very controlling. So I said, I really have to trust this guy. I mean, he's the nutritionist. And I kept on looking at Lais's body. I'm like, I know he's doing something right. Let me just trust him. And so I started eating all these carbs, and I'm like, how is this gonna work out? Like, I don't understand. But it did. And just going back to how I looked at the NPC show, I didn't even have abs during that show, and I was depleting my body of all this food. And then here come to fast forward 10 years later, after having 2 kids, and I'm like 4-pack. Eating rice.
All the time.
Eating rice all the time.
No, but
in
the
abundance.
4-pack all the time.
All the time. It doesn't go away. And so I'm eating more. I'm eating carbs. I have 2 kids. I'm looking better than I did in my 20s, and it's unreal to me. Unreal.
That's
awesome. So for me, you took away the fear of food. You really
That's
have.
amazing.
That's really the best part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, people don't even realize, like, certain things that we hear, how they're so much more powerful than I lost this amount of weight, or look at the way that I look. All those things are amazing, but when someone talks about their relationship with food, the way that they feel, that's like priceless.
When we bring people to the seminar, that's really the journey that we're talking about.
Yes.
Because getting on stage, listen, it's working out and eating in a certain way that will deliver that outcome.
Yes.
But that result, you keep forever.
Yes.
Like, the relationship that she now has with food, it's not going to go away because there's no other evidence now.
Right.
Like, now that nothing bad's going to happen,
Yeah.
and if anything, the opposite.
Yeah, that's
Right.
so awesome.
Like, you always mention something, calories in, calories out. And so anytime, because again, my relationship with food has a long history, but there was a lot of things that I was afraid of eating. And then anytime that I'm probably like going crazy and I don't want to eat something, I think of what you say, calories in, calories out. It's really not a big deal if you eat, one little piece of this, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You work out, you're maintaining your body, and it's okay to eat certain things.
Yes.
So.
And you look amazing. So that's
So,
awesome.
Thank you.
so I remember we talked, and it was, I've been doing keto, I'm doing intermittent fasting.
Your favorite, all the diets.
And it's like here's the trifecta of diets, and realistically on the coach's side, it's for me it's always like, okay, that's our starting point. Like, sometimes people worry about, am I going to be able to get on stage if I start here, or here's what I've been doing in the past, and is this going to be able to happen for me? And on my side, it's always like, all right, so here's our starting point. Like, whatever it is, it is. It's almost like it's irrelevant what it is. Now, does it work the same way inside of 16 or 20 weeks for everybody? Probably not. But regardless of what your starting point is, it still can happen.
Sure.
And on her side, luckily she had done a show before. Her body had been used to being on low calories. So it was really a matter of repairing her metabolism so that it could start to feel better, perform better, and give her body an opportunity to say, this is okay. And then once her metabolism was in a healthy place, in a good place, then we could start manipulating or pulling a little bit, because the idea was also back to not depriving. Making sure that you were getting the result that you were looking for with more food, not less, because I always feel that gives both of us more room to play.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you do want to go out, or if you do want to have something that quote unquote would not be ideal for something like this, you can still have it.
Yeah, totally. So then what happened? So you started your journey, your diet, your meal plan, whatever you want to call it, and then how did it go at first, or how were your first feelings?
I mean, I was really enjoying it because for the first time in a year, I was eating all these foods that I hadn't eaten, and I was really enjoying it. And he also gave me the training plan, and I never found it unrealistic either. Like, I was like, okay, this is totally doable. Anybody can do these workouts. Anybody can eat this meal plan. And so I was really shocked to see how he could transform my body doing something that seemed so easy.
Right.
For me, at least. It was
For such a big goal.
The goal was so huge. I mean, really, step on stage with a tiny bikini. And you're having me eat all this and do these, these training plans that anybody can really do. And so I was really shocked, and it worked. So yeah.
And for anybody who doesn't know her, which is most people, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's got 2 kids, right?
Yes.
How old are they?
2 years old and 5 years old.
She's a police detective. So she is the epitome of busy, right? And how early do you, like, walk somebody through your schedule, through your day?
Okay, so this is a sacrifice that I make. I wake up very early in the morning. I wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning. I do my workout at about 5. I'm done by 6:30. And then I'm at work by 7. My day ends at 4. Pick up the kids at school, spend time with them, do homework, feed them, bathe them, and put them to bed. And so my
Wake
day,
up, rinse and repeat.
my day starts again the next day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not that this overtook your life.
No,
You
not at
know,
all.
because again, back to what people think. People think it is hours at the gym doing cardio, and hours at the gym
prepping
training,
food.
and hours prepping food. You know, and again, that's another reason. Like, oh, I just don't have the time. And it's not. And I'm not saying it in a way as like, all right, you, the person listening that is on the fence, you have time. That isn't where I'm going with it. It's also for the day-to-day person. You know.
Yes.
It is, absolutely. I mean, I wake up at 4 because I want to.
Right.
Because I could easily work out after work, but I choose to do it early in the morning. I'm a morning person. I enjoy waking up early in the morning and having the afternoons free to spend it with my children.
Right.
And that's the reason why I do that. I'm a full-time mom. I work full-time. But I also, this is my hobby. I enjoy being fit. I enjoy working out.
Right.
So I don't feel like I'm making so many sacrifices.
Right.
I mean, perhaps I'm not watching TV, but that's about the only sacrifice that I'm making.
Right, and I want to touch on that because we were talking about that before we turned on the camera, and I wish that it had been already on. Can you stop? This child's driving me crazy. We were talking about that because there are a lot of people who are on the outside of this experience, whether they've never competed before or never worked out before or anything like that, or that don't really have this as a lifestyle, and that's okay. The lifestyle is not for everybody. Everyone should exercise and everyone should take care of their body. It's your vessel, it's how you get through every day, it's how you work, it's how you take care of your children, it's how we experience life. To what extent you want to take care of your body and what you want to look like is obviously, it's up to you. But we were talking about how there's always so much criticism toward people who decide to take this lifestyle in, I guess, a more aggressive way.
Mm-hmm.
We were discussing how we've both been called, but we were talking, about this, both of us, because I also don't want to put you on the spot.
I'm back.
About how we've been called selfish or obsessed or excessive, and you're so selfish, you have children and you have a husband and you're so selfish, you have this, and it's like, it's not really selfish. Like, maybe to somebody on the outside it's selfish, but it's also selfish to treat your husband or your kids like crap because you're tired and because you're pouring from an empty cup. It's selfish to treat your body a bad way. It's selfish to look in the mirror and hate what you see. Whatever your struggles are, you gotta pick your heart, and it's like, I feel like it's unfair to tell someone who is that disciplined and who is doing things for them, who didn't lose themselves because they're a busy cop and because they're a wife and because they're a mom of 2 and they have a house to clean. It's not selfish to also do things for you. Like, why are we expected, especially as women, to take care of everybody else, but when we do something for us, it's selfish? So we were talking about that, so I want your input on that too.
You're absolutely correct what you said. So we wear many hats as females. We work, we're mothers, we're wives, we're sisters, we're friends. But when I work out, that is me. That is my truest form. And so it's something that I need to do every day. It's my hobby, and I enjoy doing it, and I do not feel like I'm making any sacrifice in doing it. So,
like you said, maybe you're Netflix.
yeah, I'm just giving up TV, but it's not a big deal to me.
Right.
I'm okay. I sleep 6 hours a day. That's all that I need, and I work out every day. It's part of who I am.
And it makes you feel good.
And it makes
you're
me feel
doing
great.
it for you.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
I think that on the coach's side, because I hear it often, it's one of the things that's really important to me is always language, right? It's the way you say things, what you're saying, and I think that a lot of times people, women, whoever it might be, just get used to saying something so much that it just becomes part of who they are. So where at maybe one point taking time out of the day to go work out was taxing or challenging because we were doing other things, you got used to saying it so often that you believe it. And And depending on your circle, if the circle of people that you surround yourself with feel that way, then that belief gets empowered. And if that is the belief that you choose to adapt in order to give yourself the out on why you're not doing something, then that empowers it even more. And before you know it, unless somebody is challenging that belief, it's how you live. And you believe it so hard and so much that it is what it is. And then you see someone that is doing something that you might want to do, whether it's something like this, fitness related, or starting a business, or
having a hobby in
or
general.
having a hobby in general. You know, it's like maybe you want to take pool up and you play pool 7 nights a week now, and the person watching is like, man, I really wish I could play pool too. That's so selfish that you go play pool.
Right.
It doesn't have to be about fitness, but it's I carve time out to do the thing that I want to do, and because you don't want to carve the time out, we all get the same amount of time.
Right.
You know, so
it just highlights that you're not doing it, and then the reaction is almost to bash the person that is.
And that's where I was going. A lot of times what we see is the reflection of what we're not doing, and that makes us feel bad. And instead of being personally aware and having more self-awareness, what we do is bash or criticize the person that's doing the thing.
Right.
And I hear it on the highest level with the fitness competitor, and I hear it on the mom that comes to work out and has lost a couple pounds, and the people in her circle like, you know, why are you going to work out again? You know, why are you eating that thing? You know, and, or the person when you're out at a party and you're trying to watch what you eat, and they're like, oh, have a little piece of this.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit isn't a lot. I mean, I made a whole video about that. It's like, you know, you never do the opposite. You don't pull out your Tupperware with grilled chicken and say, hey, why don't you have some grilled chicken?
Just
a little bit isn't going to do anything. Or you don't bust out into push-ups and say, hey, let's do some push-ups together, because that's not going to do anything to you. You know, it never happens the other way. You know, so it's the way that people talk to themselves.
Sure.
And the things that they say become so ingrained that they just believe them.
And support is really important, and I'm sure that you can vouch for that. You have your cousin's support, whether it's to watch the kids or to help you cook, or just to support and say you're doing a good job. Maybe they're not really taking up any extra responsibilities because they can't or don't want to. Having that home support, whether you're trying to lose 5 pounds or whether you're trying to get on stage, is important, but not everyone has it. So you can go through that journey, and you'll find, because we've experienced that if you don't really have that support, it might be a little bit challenging, but in the end, you'll inspire everyone around you that saw your commitment and that didn't support you, but now they're like, well, maybe I'll go try it out, or, you know, you look good, or I knew you could do it. That's my favorite. But it's like, support or no support, because if you're doing it for you, then it doesn't really matter if you have that support. It's nice to have it, obviously, but if you don't have it, then you're gonna have the people that have their opinions, and that's okay too. You just gotta move forward.
Exactly.
So you're on your journey.
Yes.
You convince yourself to trust the process. When was the first time that you actually saw that it was happening?
You mean like the changes?
Like you said, wow, this is actually working.
Well, I think it was at the point where Lais was like, you've got to take, because I mean, the scale didn't really move that much, but that was expected. Lais was like, you got to take the progress pictures. And I did, and I was like, wow, to see myself like from when I started to like 3 months later, the change was so significant. I mean, I thought I was already like fit when I first started, but I was even more fit by the time that I took those pictures. So I was like, it's amazing how just, you know, eating a little cleaner or, you know, lifting a little more weights, what it can do to your body.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. The pictures are everything, because we see ourselves every day and we don't notice. To us, we look the same. And then if the scale is not really cooperating, or even if that's not really the goal, to lose or gain that much, the pictures are magic.
And here's one of the important parts of seeing that. And I don't know the answer, but when you saw that first, like, that you saw those pictures, you're like, wow, this is actually working. Did your commitment level go up?
Absolutely, because you know, we get a little frightened by the scale. You know,
Yes.
we want to see the number lower and getting lower, but the truth is that whatever that scale says really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was all in my clothes. It was all in the inches. I mean, I'm fitting into things that I haven't fit in years, and so I knew at that point that something was happening. There was a transformation happening. And I mean, and you could also feel it by the way you feel. So I feel more energized. I sleep better. I don't have trouble sleeping. Like, all these things matter too.
Right.
Yeah,
and a lot of times that first indication of progress remotivates, reinvigorates, whatever you want to call it, lights a fire.
Yeah.
Excuse my French.
It's okay.
He's used to it.
But sometimes people don't make it to that first indicator.
Yes, they quit right before.
They quit right before, you know. For most things, you know,
Yeah.
in business
Yeah,
and whatever,
totally.
like they quit right before that first, like, wow, this is actually working, and they kind of missed the boat there.
Yeah, that desperation that people start with, like I gotta do something about the way I look, or I gotta do something about the job I hate, or whatever it is. That initial thing is enough of a fire, but the fire of seeing fruits of your labor, seeing progress is so much bigger. Because that initial thing will die down, and it'll light back up, and it'll die back down, and that's how people yo-yo diet and do all that stuff. Once you see, like, okay, it's working, like, forget it. Like, then you go.
And then was it like week by week?
And that's an interesting thing that you just brought up, because it wasn't immediate. It was maybe like a month and a half later that it just like kind of sparked the change, and all of a sudden it was drastically happening. Like it was quickly happening.
Yes. Imagine if you quit, you know,
and that's
a week
the thing.
before.
But that's exactly why poly people quit. It's because they want to see an immediate result, and that it's not going to happen immediately. Your body needs to adjust. It needs to get used to what you're doing, to what you're eating. So you need to let that time pass, which is why you would always tell me, trust the process. Just stay positive. Don't look at the scale. Like just, you know, keep at it. And sure enough, about a month and a half in, I started losing the inches. And ever since then, I mean, it's only been what, a month and a half or 2 months since the show?
Yeah.
Right.
And my body keeps on changing. I mean, incredibly changing from the last time, from the show.
Yeah.
That I know I'm going to look different to the next one. It's only been 2 months.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I'm not gonna get into this subject on here, but I wonder, right? This is real.
I never know with him because he's so sarcastic.
I wonder how much the belief of it working influences how much it's changing. And what I mean is, if you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do, you follow your plan, you follow your workout, but in your heart of hearts don't believe that it's gonna work, I wonder how much more that changes the outcome once you see the little bit of proof that your belief goes through the roof, and you're like, well, it's actually working. And then that mindset of this is gonna work, you know, starts to actually help the process of the change, because now you believe it's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's actually pretty deep.
It's
very
another
deep,
day,
but
another
it's
day.
true. But it's true. Your belief, like your mindset, is.
I'll be
everything.
taking test people for that too.
Your mindset is so powerful. Like
Yeah,
how you
I
feel
really
or think
think
or
that.
believe about it.
I really believe that.
But it is really hard at first.
Right.
And I think even sometimes for me with every show, I'm like, can I really get like where I'm envisioning? You know, it's like I still struggle believing, not like in his ability, but just like in just my body transforming a certain way, period. Because anything you haven't seen or you haven't done, it's hard to imagine doing it.
But what about the cool stuff?
Yes, let's talk about your experience. So let's talk about the show. So you look great, you have a better relationship with food, you went through this journey for 18 weeks. How long was her prep?
Was it? It was 16.
16. It was about 16 weeks. So I had no clue what to expect the day of the weekend of the show. Thanks to Lais, she guided me very well through it, before, during, and after. And so I have to say that it was a spectacular weekend. I was expecting for all these gorgeous and beautiful women to be super catty and to treat me like crap when I was there. And quite the contrary. We all bonded. It was a very unique experience. Surprising to me how glamorous the show was. I really did feel like a diva. It was the treatment that I received, just doing the makeup and the hair. It was a great weekend for myself to feel like a woman again.
Yes.
And so, you know, we get so caught up on the day-to-day things, like being a mom, you know, working and all these things. Sometimes you don't have time for yourself. But that weekend I spent it all to myself with my lady friends, and it was a blast, absolute blast. I felt like a princess.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's
That's
so
awesome.
awesome.
And again, back to the journey that we talk about. It's those things are part of the journey. Like getting on stage is the icing on the cake. But that feeling, you know, the new relationship with food, feeling like that weekend, those are all part of the journey that we talk about,
Yes.
that we promote, that we tell people that we want to share.
Yes. And we want other people to experience.
Right. That journey, that part is more of what we get involved in.
Yes.
And not that we're disregarding the stage part, but you know, those experiences last so much longer than the little bit amount of time that you're on stage.
Yeah, and I tell people that all the time because everyone stresses that stage moment from, am I gonna look that way on stage day, or am I posing to the left or to the right, and it's like, don't worry about it. Like, yes, you need to look a certain way and you're working towards that. And if you're doing your part, you'll be good to go. Yes, you want to work on your posing, it's so important. Yes, you want to focus on that stage moment, but there's so much before, there's so much during, and there's so much after that isn't whatever the amount of time is that you're actually posing on stage. And those things are really so transformative of you and your relationship with you and with food and with your body and with your self-esteem. And I'm sure everyone gets something different out of it.
Right.
Everyone's different, but it's good to hear because
So
there's always that common thing.
So when I was up on that stage, I wasn't scared, but it was nerve-wracking, to be back on that stage. But once I got the hang of it, because I did the two categories, I was like, man, like, this is Erika, this is who I am. Like, I was up on there and I wasn't a mom, I wasn't a wife, it was just me. I was back to who I was.
Yes.
And for anybody who's a mom, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Because you get so lost in in the things that you do, and you just kind of just want a piece of yourself. So I felt that up there. I felt like, man, this is Erika.
And we did photo shoots too.
Oh, we did photo shoots. It was.
Well, don't skip. Like, let's go. No, you're okay. But let's go back. Athletes meeting. So you're on this journey, and if you're on social media, you're following other people, and it's the first time that you're in person with all the competitors. How was that for you?
Friday night, day before the show.
It was interesting because again, I had no idea what to expect. These women.
That's okay. We're live. We are
Kids
live.
make noise. Phones go off. It happens.
I had no idea what to
Oh
expect.
snap! My phone. Wait, my phone's running out of battery. All right, we're good.
And I had no clue what to expect, but again, I was shocked to see how nice and how friendly these women were, and how inviting they were. And even the host of the show and the owners of the federation were there, and they were just so down to earth. Like they were just talking to everyone, and just to see everybody dressed up so nicely, it was definitely a unique experience for me.
It's a cool launch to the weekend.
Yes, you're already a diva. You're already glammed. And
They set the stage for what's next, for what's to come.
Yes.
So it's just an athlete's meeting, but you're expected to wear this amazing gown, but it's setting the tone for the rest of the weekend.
You already feel pretty. You already
feel
like
a diva.
Yes. And that word, I think, at least for me, it used to sound so weird. Like, why do they call them divas? Like, for me, the word diva is like Mariah Carey and Beyonce, and it's like someone that's like not. But yes, like that's exactly what you feel like.
They make everyone feel special.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you win or don't win.
Yes.
You're beautiful, and everybody calls each other beautiful. Which was shocking to me too.
Yeah.
So like they just treat you like you're this beautiful woman, whether you win or not.
Yeah.
And it's nice to feel that way.
Of course.
And those are some and a lot of the reasons that we wanted to go with the WBFF,
Yes.
as opposed to any of the other federations, because it was about maintaining that femininity and making it more about you and your journey than getting on stage. And yeah, it's still a competition, it's still a contest, and you're still competing. But I guess we wanted it to be more than you stand next to somebody, her shoulders, her legs, her
No
legs.
other federation does.
It's very cut
that
and dry.
glam.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very cut and
Most
dry.
other contests are cut and dry.
This, to me, the only way I can describe it is like you're putting on a show.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dressed up in this amazing gown, but you also get to do the fitness part with your bikini.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're up there doing a show.
Yeah.
Because you gotta walk down the runway.
Yeah. And
Walk a
that-
certain way, pose a certain way.
Yes.
It's very feminine.
Showcase, right, and glamorous and
Yes.
classy. But that journey to get there is not just about can you get a six pack and how skinny can you get or how fit can you get. It's also about who do you have to become to get up on that stage and actually feel pretty and enjoy that moment, and who do you have to become in that journey to get out of your shell. Whatever, everyone's different. You weren't that shy, but some people are really shy. I was really shy.
Like they both have said, who do you have to become? It's almost like you're getting yourself back.
Right.
Or
It's
even
a mixture, I
or
feel like.
even better than getting yourself back. It's like, now what are you gonna get forever as a result of
You get
this
a new
process?
you. Yeah, I think I struggled with that too a lot, especially as a mom, because after I gave birth, and that's a topic for another day, but I felt like I need to find myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you're looking for someone that's gone, because now you're a mom, and now there's a kid, and now your life is different. You can't try to be who you used to be in a way, because this is a new you now. It's a big thing, you know? So I think that you get to kind of like find yourself in the sense of where like you get to connect with being just you, but you also get to recreate like, okay, so who is this post-mom me that's thinking about me and that's doing something for me? So it's a mixture of finding and recreating that's very cool, and it's very powerful, I think, for you, like when you go through it.
Right.
You know? And I feel like that the only way is, for me, was with the WBFF, because it's not just about the fitness and the body, it's about the whole experience.
Exactly.
And before we talk about the outcome, the truth of the matter is that I think that anyone can go through that same experience,
Yes.
regardless of the outcome on stage.
Yes.
The actual experience of going through the process of reclaiming yourself and looking amazing and
Yes.
looking great
Doing
and
something out of
getting
your
on
comfort zone.
stage and experiencing all of that. I think everyone can go through that part.
I think everyone should.
Right. But now,
Yeah.
but now let's talk about the outcome.
Right.
And wait, but with that, there are different categories. So a lot of times people will be like, yeah, but how am I going to look like those bikini girls? You're not. It's your first show.
Right.
You're going to look like the best you. And if the bikini category is not for you, then there's a transformation category. You still get to go through the entire process.
Right. You know, there's a fitness category,
There's
a
so
figure
many
one.
categories,
There's
and
a
there's
lot
so
of
many
categories.
shows. So it's like, it's just the journey. It's
The
your
journey. The journey is for the person.
Yes.
Now, when you become more competitive, if you choose to continue to compete, then you can start to say, well, what do I need to do to be more competitive, and ask a different set of questions. But the actual experience in the first time
For
around
anybody.
is for anyone, and they can go
Yeah.
through the process and they can own it and all of that. But then, you know, like in her case,
Yes,
you
let's
have-
talk about the outcome.
let's
The
talk-
fun part.
So, truth be told, that when I first started this, it was just for fun. But I'm a highly competitive person. So in the back of my mind, I always thought, you know, it would be nice to win. But that's why I took the dieting or like the meal plans and the exercise so seriously, was because, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope I win, you know. But I was very pragmatic and very realistic that this is my first show, so I may not win, you know.
Or even place. You
or
guys
even
had win or
place.
place, like just
Yeah.
to be recognized up there.
Right. So I knew that there was a possibility that I could not, because it's my first time.
Right, you never know who's going to show up.
And
Mhm.
exactly, you never know
You
who's
know.
going to show up.
Yep.
But so I'm doing my thing up on the stage, and next thing you know, they say, well, Erika Huerta wins the pro card, and I'm like, I was shocked to hear
Like,
that.
who?
I'm like,
Is that me?
there's no way, like, you know, surely I wanted to place, but a pro card, that for sure I was not expecting.
I didn't tell her that that could happen. We
Right.
didn't tell her.
Right.
Because with the WBFF, you can become a pro athlete on your first show. Again, depending who comes next to you,
Right.
it's up to
and,
them.
And to explain what that means is when you're competing for the first time or for the 10th time or whatever time, you compete as an amateur, right? So all the competitors on stage are amateur competitors, meaning they have never won a show, they are not professional competitors.
Doesn't matter how many times they've done
Right.
it.
What you want to compare that to would be maybe like a college athlete that, you know, has played high school basketball or soccer or whatever, and now they play college, and now the next step would be the NBA or MLB or the NFL, where they will become professional. But obviously in that pool
Right.
of athletes, you know, the top of the top are the ones that move on. So in this particular situation, it's an amateur show, and the winners could potentially become pro competitors, and that's what the pro card
Right.
means, that if you decide to continue competing, now you will compete with all the other pros
Right.
that are the top of the top, best of the best.
And it's their decision. There's no like, well, you have to do X amount of shows or win X amount of shows before you become a professional athlete. It's up to them in that moment. Usually, not always, the first place winner, sometimes the second, and sometimes the third. After that, then there's top 5. They don't get pro cards. There's top 10, depending on how big your category is. But she placed and she got a pro card.
Yeah.
So That was a nice surprise.
It was a nice surprise.
I knew that you were gonna do well, just because you looked great and you did take it serious, and you know you were comfortable up there. You worked a lot on your posing, so I knew you were gonna do well. It's just impossible to know who's gonna get a pro card because you don't know who's showing up.
Right, and the important part is to bring your best.
100%,
You know,
your best.
Because when you bring your best, you don't walk off stage and say, well, I could have done
That's
X, Y, or I could have done better, or I could have, you know, you don't ever in this process want to feel that way.
Yes.
Because we've experienced that too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go into this where you're putting so much effort and feel like I just could have done better.
Yes.
You know, so when you bring your best, the outcome
It
is
is what
almost
it is.
irrelevant. It's like, you know, I did everything, I couldn't have done anything else.
Right.
And if I come in last, it's because everybody else looked
Better than me,
and
posed better than me, and everything
Right.
else. So,
Right.
so yeah.
so you won your pro card.
I won the pro card and I'm back on stage in 2 months. I mean, it's
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, it's almost like an addiction. Like I can't wait to like go back on it because the experience was so amazing
Yeah.
that I'm really looking forward to the second time around.
So in 2 weeks, we are all going to the Bahamas.
Yes.
How cool is that? We're going to the
No,
Bahamas.
we're gonna trip, a show, everything.
But in the Bahamas, they are hosting the World Championships, where all of the top competitors in the WBFF will come to compete for the world title.
Yep.
And now we compete with the pros.
And now they compete with the pros, because if you watched episode 1 of our new format, Lais is also a pro, and if this is your first time watching, go back to episode 1. And both of these ladies will be stepping on stage in 2 weeks, and we're gonna be having a great time again.
Yes.
Again.
With Coach of the Year nominee,
Yep.
Team of the Year nominee.
Yeah,
We're so
like this
excited.
show was actually great for everyone. You know,
Yeah.
I think that that all of us, you know, not only them winning their pro cards, but you know, part of the World Championships, they give out, you know, top what are the categories? Male fitness model of the year, female model of the year,
most improved,
most improved,
photogenic.
and then they do coach of the year, you know, because a lot of us coaches work with a lot of people, and you know, these transformations are not as easy as they might look sometimes. So there is a coach of the year category, and because of them, then I did get nominated.
Well, not just because of us, because of the other teams that we've taken in the past.
Yeah,
too. It
yeah,
has
for
nothing
sure.
to do with winning pro cards. It's just you are a coach that's constantly bringing people to their stage,
Right.
so they want to
And-
recognize you for that.
And there is a team of the year category, and part of that process is, you know, do you have more than yourself coming to these events, and you're creating that atmosphere for people to want to participate more in this. And there are 10 teams that are nominated. I guess, you know, you would say the top 10 teams in the world,
Yes.
and we're in that category.
Yes, and
So we
here's
have
the-
our 2 pros competing on stage, and now we are one of the top 10 teams in the world, and I guess one of the top 10 coaches too.
Yes.
So
And we are gonna
Bahamas in 2 weeks,
Yep.
and we will have footage from over there.
Yes.
And they are in prep mode, but their prep is very different. You know, when Erika sends me her food, there is chocolate at the end of every day. Every day there is chocolate. She has a croqueta at a window. She doesn't even make it. We go to a
Every
random
morning.
window, and she, you know, and none of them look like they are unhappy at this moment.
No.
No.
Because
At all.
I'm good.
you know, and everything will come together over the next 2 weeks. We make little adjustments.
I am hungry. I'm not unhappy, but I'm hungry. But
Right.
that's because I'm eating 1,500 calories instead of 2,300. But
Right.
that's like, most people don't eat 1,500
They're-
calories,
and when
you
she's-
know?
But you're not sacrificing.
My
Right.
hunger is very different,
And
right?
when she says hungry, what she really means is that she wants to indulge in a bunch of other things that, you know, are just not going to help the way that she looks in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not that she's never going to have them again, but
Right.
realistically, you know, there are certain things that for her specifically don't sit well.
Right.
It has nothing to do with calories. It just might not sit right.
Right.
That she'll probably be willing to eat if she wasn't getting on stage.
Yes, I'm sorry for them.
And that's really the hunger that she's talking about.
Yes.
Because in terms of food,
I'm
she's
eating
eating
carbs.
plenty of food
Yeah.
every day. Like that should not be a thing. Like there's a certain level, there's a certain acceptable level of hunger that you go through when you are trying to lean out. I mean, you're in a deficit, right?
Right.
But it shouldn't be like you're emaciated
Yeah.
or you spend the day thinking about food because
No
you're barely
cardio.
eating.
We're doing no cardio.
Well, she is. I have
Oh, you
her.
are?
I
Yeah.
just added 10 more minutes.
Oh shit, so that does that mean it's something for me?
Yeah. But I like cardio. I don't mind cardio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
But again, we started with 20 minutes a week ago.
Yeah. 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. I'm doing no cardio.
No
Yes.
diet pills. We still
Nothing?
drink nothing.
there are
Nothing.
no,
supplements like
No
that.
supplements like that, right?
no, we are not manipulating.
All natural.
And I know that we kind of, or at least every time I talk,
We're like punching.
we're like, no, we don't do this and we don't do that. But you know, the truth is that we say we don't do it and we keep saying we don't do it because you don't have to.
Because you don't have to, and it's safe. The
And
way
I
that we're
think
doing
it's
is
not that
super
we're
safe.
trying to like punch people in the face. It's like we take great pride
Yes.
in doing it this
And
way.
guess what happens? On Sunday when the show is over,
Yeah.
everybody's still feeling good,
Yes,
looking good, and on
looking good.
Monday
Yeah.
when the show is over and everybody's going back home,
Yes.
you haven't rebounded 10 or 15 pounds
We
of
jumped
water.
into another prep, but
Right.
even if we hadn't, we would still look pretty close to the stage.
Which, to mention, when I did the NPC versus now, I did feel like binging, and I did feel like eating all this amount of food after the show because I was so deprived for 16
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to have a few cheat days after this prep, and I didn't have the desire because I was never depleted of the things that I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
I'm still eating chocolate every day. I still get to eat my mixed nuts that I like. So there's nothing to crave if I'm eating what I want.
Yeah.
Right. You know, abs are
Yes.
out.
Abs are there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and here's the thing. Truth be told, when we say she's eating chocolate every day, it's also a controlled amount. Like it's enough. You know, she
She's not
feels.
eating 3 bars of
Right,
Snickers.
yeah.
a square.
And you also have to be back to being self-aware enough to know that there are gateway foods, and for
Yes.
some people, maybe chocolate is one of them, and if they eat a little piece, that'll lead to a lot, and that's probably not the right food for them, but it's not that chocolate is bad.
Yeah, you gotta know your gateway
So
foods.
something that I learned also throughout this process is mindful eating.
Right.
So what that means is that, back to what you said, it's the portions. You don't need to eat a bag of M&Ms to fulfill your craving. You can just have a few pieces.
Right.
And so you've taught me how to eat in portions.
Yes.
And just be mindful of the things that I want, and also recognizing, is this real hunger or am I just bored?
Or am I thirsty?
Or am I thirsty?
Right.
Because
and,
those things really
and
do
do you
exist.
think, just because culturally, do you think we are just ingrained with the idea that you have to eat till you're full, or,
Yes.
or you have to eat all your food?
100%.
You know, because lately I've been thinking so much about that. Like I grew up and it's like you had to eat all your food.
Yeah, don't get up till you
didn't-
finish
You couldn't
it.
get up, and to me it's like really like I can't physically get up if I don't want more food. I have to eat it all. You know, and for whatever reason, it's like they're starving children or whatever. Like you start to think about that, and now as a parent, it's like, why would you say that? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And not to mention that as Hispanics, our portions are so large. too.
right?
So
You
it's
know,
not, they're not
because
realistic.
it's almost like we make people feel good by feeding them,
Right.
but then we
Yeah.
criticize you if you're overweight.
Yeah.
You know, we're the first
But-
ones to be
but
like,
that's
oh, you're
the
getting 2
thing.
pounds.
I think if anything, that is one of the things that is new to a lot of people when they start anything, whether you're getting on stage or not. The portions and when you're done eating, to be okay to be done eating. And you're not eating a little bit of food, again, it just talks about how many calories we eat. It's about like, I'm not stuffed, like, oh my god, now I need to walk this off. Or maybe the food choices sit lighter, maybe the amount of food sits lighter, but you're eating again soon.
Right.
You know, maybe you need more water. Maybe you're like, damn, this square of chocolate is better than none, or it's better than binging. It's about changing your mindset too. So with that process, it will change the way that you think, not only your relationship with food, but your mindset about how you eat and what you eat and all that stuff, because it does need to change.
Yeah, I mean that alone could be another topic. Like,
Yeah.
You know, because,
Next time.
because the truth is
We're
that,
running out of time here.
right. The truth is that I think that and this was one of my main drivers with how I wanted to kind of rebrand and reformulate what we're doing. Like our Latin community is so misinformed.
Yeah.
And so bound by these cultural things that no one's ever bothered to ask questions about why we do what we do or how we do it, and it just gets passed on over and over, and it's almost like, you know, I can't talk about it enough, and we'll talk about that another day, but there's a lot of things there that, you know, are just ingrained and people don't even notice it.
Right.
You know, it's just like, well, I grew up that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you grew up that way, but you never asked yourself now, like, should I be doing that, or why am I doing that?
Right.
And no one's parents are perfect, so it's like you have to question a little bit of why people did what they did to you while you were growing up.
Right,
Does
you know,
it
it got
make
passed
sense?
down
Does
from
it
them,
not?
you know.
can't just be like, well, it got passed down, it is what it is.
Right.
Like, no, you can break the cycle.
Right, so we'll definitely be talking about that
Yes.
in another episode.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for
Anything
having
else
us.
that you want to share, say? We'll have her IG page if that's okay on our post.
Absolutely.
Yes.
She always is posting very cool motivational things.
Yes.
She posts her workouts, so you could follow her on IG. And yeah,
No, we're done.
That's it.
we're
Thank
good.
you so much.
All right, guys,
Thank
thanks for
you.
watching. Make sure you do the stuff people do on these things. You know, like, share, comment,
Subscribe.
subscribe. I don't know. Like, the next episode will be coming out very soon. And
Yeah.
till then, peace out.
All right. My poor son.